Okay, so we've covered the theory of citation styles and tenses. Now, let's put it all into practice by analyzing the sentence patterns in an actual research paper. We're going to walk through this paper's review section, paragraph by paragraph. First, let's look at the setup in paragraphs 1 to 3. This is the top of the funnel we discussed. In paragraph 1, the author starts with an author-prominent style to establish the general landscape and the state of the art. In paragraph 2, we see a strategic mix. They use info-prominent for the broad background, then transition to author-prominent to introduce key foundational studies. By paragraph 3, the focus narrows to list specific systems, again using a dense author-prominent style. So, we're already seeing that move from general to specific. After setting the stage, the author's next job is to create a space for their own research. To do that, they need to identify a problem or a gap in the current approaches. And that's exactly what happens in paragraph 4. This is the turning point. The author uses a sweeping, info-prominent statement to make a critical evaluation. Most systems use TF-IDF. The hashtags tell the real story. This is a negative generalization used to identify a gap. They are signaling that the standard method is not optimal. Once the gap has been identified, the author needs to discuss the work most closely related to their proposed solution. This takes us to the narrowest part of the funnel. In paragraphs 5 through 9, the writing becomes predominantly author-prominent. The author is now deep in the specific details of closely related work, citing group after group of researchers. This is where you expect to see the simple past tense used heavily to describe what these specific authors did or found. So, the author has established the field, created a research gap, and reviewed the closest prior work. What's the final step? The closing paragraph makes the final move. Notice, there are no citations. The author now speaks directly about their own paper to make their contrastive claim. This is the classic move 3 from the CARS model, occupying the niche. They're planting their flag and stating how they will address the gap they so carefully constructed. Okay, so for the entire first part of this lecture, we have focused on the theory, the underlying principles of citation, tense, and structure in academic writing. Now, we're going to talk about how you can use generative AI as a powerful tool to help you master these skills. One of the most effective techniques is to ask an AI to identify what we call functional phrases. As the slide explains, these are common, reusable phrases that act as the structural skeleton of academic writing. They aren't about the specific topic, they're about the rhetorical purpose, how to introduce a topic, how to transition, how to state a claim. The core idea is to feed the AI a high-quality text and prompt it to separate the reusable structure from a specific content. So, that's the concept. Now let's see in action. We're going to ask the AI to analyze the very first paragraph of the paper we just examined, which we know is performing CARS Move 1, establishing the research landscape. Here's the paragraph, and here's our simple prompt. Identify the functional phrases. So what would the AI find? It would look for topic-agnostic sentence stems and phrases that you could adapt for your own work. For example, it should pull out things like, your topic has been an area of active research. A perfect opening for almost any paper. Recently, the state of the art in has been represented in. A great template for introducing a key conference or publication. In our work, we address an aspect of the classic way to introduce what your paper does. We also consider a more general class of an excellent phrase for positioning your research scope. By using AI as an analytical tool like this, you can quickly build a personal library of these essential phrases, which will significantly improve and speed up your own academic writing. We can push the AI one step further. As the note here suggests, you can also ask it to generate more generalized formulas. You could follow up with a prompt like, based on these examples, create even more abstract, generalized templates for each rhetorical move. By doing this, you're asking the AI to go beyond specific phrases and identify the underlying patterns. Okay, for a final practical example, we can ask the AI to do one more powerful analysis. to extract the academic keywords used in the paper. Let's start with the words used in the first 4 paragraphs, the top of our funnel, where the author establishes the landscape and identifies a gap. Notice the vocabulary here. The nouns are broad and conceptual: area, state, approach, and limit. The adjectives are evaluative and general: active, standard, important. This is the language of generalization. You use these words to paint the big picture and make high-level claims about the field. In the middle of the review, the vocabulary becomes much more concrete and descriptive. The nouns have shifted to specifics like technique, correlation, statistics, and case. The verbs are about action and analysis like improve, identify, and process. And the adjectives signal that we're now comparing closely related studies: specific, different, and closely related. This is the language you use when you're deep in the analytical details. In the final paragraphs, the language becomes more methodological and synthesizing. There's a strong focus on method and approach, paired with verbs of application like apply and use. The adjectives are now about drawing conclusions and highlighting novelty: previous versus original and new. This is the language you use to summarize the prior art and justify your own unique contribution. Okay, to bring everything together, I want to leave you with a practical practice. This is how you can take all the theories we've discussed today, from citation styles to the CARS model, and apply them yourselves using AI. The goal here is to reverse engineer a model paper from your own field. You're not just reading it for content. You're actively deconstructing it to learn how it was built. This slide gives you a powerful 2-part prompt that you can use as a starting point. You would take the abstract of a paper you admire and ask the AI to do 2 things simultaneously. First, ask it to identify the general functional phrases and their purposes. This is what we just practiced. It's the process of extracting the reusable rhetorical skeleton from a text. Second, and this is a fantastic trick for quickly grasping a paper's core, ask it to identify specific technical elements. What's the input? What's the output? What's the evaluation data set? This gives you a structured summary of the paper's substance. And to quickly show you that this isn't just abstract theory, here's a concrete example. This slide is a simple statistical analysis of the tense usage in that model paper. As you can see, there's a clear, non-random distribution between the simple present, simple past, and present perfect, which confirms that skilled writers strategically vary their tenses to achieve specific goals. All right, to bring everything to a close, let's sum up the key messages from today's session. The most important idea is that the core strategies for writing a powerful literature review are consistent and learnable. At its heart, a related work section is a story that follows the CARS model. You establish a territory, move 1, identify a niche, move 2, and finally, occupy that niche, move 3. As you read, I strongly encourage you to actively analyze how expert writers make these moves. The key technical elements you use to tell this story are the tools we've focused on today: your choice of citation forms, your strategic use of verb tense, and your selection of reporting verbs. These are the levers you pull to shift focus and signal your stance. This all leads to our final, most important conclusion: a literature review is not just a list of papers. It is a fascinating story about a community of researchers working within a shifting intellectual scene. And that's all for today. Thank you for joining us. I'll see you in the next lecture.